Hey guys, and welcome back to the MMA India show. And greetings. This is your host Parvin Dabas, and we have a very special guest, Vivek Sethia, CEO of India on Track. Greetings, Vivek. How are you doing?
I'm good, Praveen. How are you doing?
Great, great. Good to have you on the show finally.
Thank you. Thank you.
And before I give a brief about you, I just want to tell everybody these are very tough times. Our country is going through a really rough phase in the second wave, and everyone should stay home and stay safe. Uh, there's not much we can do apart from that. Of course, a lot of people are helping online, sharing messages, sharing where oxygen is available, where plasma donors are available. That's a great thing to do, and one should do that. Just remember, the best thing one can do also is staying home and helping, because it seems that this is the worst phase that our country is going through in terms of the pandemic. And the MMA India show just wants to send out the message that if you do have to step out, please wear a mask, even if it's in your building, in your compound, in the lift. Please wear your mask all the time and only step out if really, really essential. Please do what you can as a citizen. A lot of people are complaining online. What I would say is stop complaining and see what you can do. We have a civic responsibility, all of us, to be safe and keep everyone around us safe. We're in this situation because of all of us. No need to point fingers. All of us need to be responsible and take responsibility and do what we can now to bring this pandemic under control. Remember, keep your distance, wear masks, stay indoors.
Thanks, Praveen. Appreciate the shout out. I mean, I echo your sentiment. Things are terrible. So if you all can contribute towards it, that's the ideal situation rather than pointing fingers. So appreciate that thought.
So firstly, I want to give a shout out to the Fanatics MMA app. It's a new prediction app, and you can download it. The link is in the caption in our show going on right now. It's a great new app for predictions for MMA. And if you want to do predictions, we've got a link to Sky 24/7. You can do predictions through them. And this episode of the MMA India show is sponsored by Pro Panja League. Might as well give a shout out to our own, right? Now, bringing Vivek into the picture, I want to introduce Vivek. Vivek is the CEO of India on Track, which is a sports agency which specializes in sponsorships, structuring deals, a lot of things, bringing investments, a 360-degree sports agency. Is that the best way to describe it, Vivek?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do lots of sports marketing, sports consulting, sponsorship, as you mentioned, and also on the grassroots side, we do a lot of development work with younger players. So thank you. Thanks, Praveen.
Exactly. So you guys are doing a lot of really great work in terms of developing sport at the grassroots, and especially football. I know you're a big football fan.
Yeah, I am. So football, basketball, badminton, and baseball are our four key sports. But yeah, personally, big football fan, also big MMA fan. So it's really excited to be here.
Yeah, great. So just to let everybody know, Vivek has been following the MMA India show since its inception, and we've connected a lot on that. And it's great to have him here, especially in terms of the business side of the sport. So we're going to talk about the business side of the sport first, because I know there's a lot of people involved in MMA in our country who always are looking for sponsors and wondering how do we bring more money, more investment, more sponsors into the sport. And we're going to talk about that before then we go into the UFC 261 predictions. This is a big fight card happening tomorrow morning on Sony. Thanks, Sony guys, again for showing this fight to everyone for free in India. Everybody else is, a lot of countries they have to pay. It's a PPV. So thank you, Sony, for showing this fight. Before that, Vivek, we want to, the Pro Panja League, the sponsors have something for you, especially, which is a Pro Panja League t-shirt.
Oh, brilliant.
With your name on it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And this is...
I can get my hands on it quickly.
Yeah, so this is all for you for the cheap price of $2,000. No, I'm just kidding. This is from our side for you.
Thank you very much.
Merchandise for you. And once things get a little normal, it will be sent to you in Delhi. So now getting down to the business side of it, again, I want to ask all of you guys who are tuning in, put in your comments on predictions for UFC 261 into the comment section, and we'll try to read some of your predictions out as well later in the show. So keep putting in your predictions into the comment section, and we'll try getting to you. Cheers. Now, Vivek, coming to the business side, like I was saying, there's a lot of people involved, fighters, coaches, gyms, MMA gyms, promotions, which I have seen, of course, firsthand, who struggle to get money for the sport of MMA. I have sometimes on various shows discussed what hurdles MMA has, but we wanted your point of view from it as a sports agency specialist and a lover of MMA. Does MMA face a hurdle in getting money? And if so, why? And what can we do to overcome that hurdle?
Yeah. So of course it faces a massive hurdle. And if you look at the case in point of the Super Fight League, for example, even though it was probably, I won't say best, but definitely the most top-down product that India has seen. Some of our best fighters were in the league. It was touted, celebrities were involved. It was touted to be like this big entertainment product. But it still really struggled to build any kind of a commercial model or a long-term sustainable financial model, whether it's through sponsorships or having broadcast partners that can really co-invest with them. And the challenge, I think, is that the community is really small right now. So the fans, so to speak, or the followers of the sport, or even the people who would just casually watch the sport, are very small for the Indian community.
But Sony has a big community of people watching UFC. India has any niche. The great thing about India is, the flip side of having a big population is even a niche audience becomes big.
Yeah, true. So Sony does have a niche for sure for UFC, and you and I are both part of that niche. The challenge that Sony has also is that I would believe that this whole property is within the development phase for them. So I don't think they are really making money off of the having the UFC rights in India and growing. So they are at a situation where they feel that this might become big in 4, 5, 7 years, and people like you and me would start paying a little bit for pay-per-view. So, like, I probably watch all fight nights and all pay-per-view
I
events.
just want to mention here, I think UFC is behind a paywall on Sony Live. So you have to be a premium customer.
Yes. Even subscribe. Sony, absolutely. Even if you look at the channel, right, you have to subscribe for the channel. Now, whatever that is worth, if it's $10 a month, this property is worth maybe 10 paisa for equivalent terms.
Like I can say that I took the premium on Sony Live because of UFC.
Me too.
So that
me as well.
Traveling, so that does count to something, right?
It does, and that was the case for me as well. Of course, there was some football as well, but see, if you look at the amount of content on Sony Live, and if you appropriate the cost of subscription for UFC specifically, it's going to be minuscule. I mean, you can really handpick people like you and me. I don't believe that this community is going to be more than 5 to 10,000 people, right? But
I don't agree with you fully, because the numbers, which I've heard for Sony or for UFC, seem to be much larger than that. And we have UFC communities online, Indian, which are much bigger than that. Even our own page has,
UFC followers would be more than that.
I'm talking about UFC followers.
Yeah. What I meant was people specifically buying Sony Live for UFC product. So when you look at that, I mean, a couple of $100 into that number, it's definitely not going to be what UFC would be charging Sony, right?
Yeah,
so it's a product which is for the future, where they are developing, which they probably feel that, I mean, WWE is a great case in point, right, for Sony. So they really invested in the product. WWE and Sony really invested in their own relationship. And now it's India's second largest viewing sports. I mean, if we can call it sports, but like a sporting property, right? And it's a money making machine for Sony. Now, coming back to your original
question, let's say the WWE pays for UFC. In a way.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you look at some of their assets, which are really profit making, and they are obviously paying for UFC, and we are. I mean, big shout out to them. I don't think I'll be watching half the events in a year, or even 30% of the events, if I had to pay American pay-per-view prices. So I'm really benefited by the justice Sony has for the Indian fans. But coming back to your original question, now what happens is this is a phenomena in football as well. See, why is IPL, for example, so successful? Is that people who are cricket fans are watching the absolute top quality of cricket in IPL, right? Now, if Indian cricket was really inferior than the best cricket in the world, and people were, so for example, if you were watching the Australian League, that was far inferior than IPL, you would start questioning, the quality. So this is a phenomena we see in football. Why is the Indian Super League, apart from some of the hardcore fans in certain regions, really struggling? Is you have access to Premier League, you have access to La Liga, you're watching Barcelona play, Real Madrid play, Manchester United play week in and week out, right? And then you see the Indian Super League. So if you're a casual fan, the quality of the product is so inferior that it becomes really difficult. You then it's on to the league and the franchisees to create a separate connect with a fan like me. So if I'm in Delhi, and unfortunately football doesn't have a team in Delhi anymore, but if there was a team in Delhi, they know that just purely by the product itself, they can't convince me because I watch Manchester United play every weekend, right? Or Arsenal play. Now they need to find some other avenues, whether it's a personal connect, whether it's a community connect, whether it is picking players from my neighborhood or community, or doing some grassroots work around me, or doing some charitable work, or doing some community drives. So they have to do all these various other things to connect with the fan and then say, oh, I love Delhi Dynamos because, or Delhi Daredevils or whatever it was. I love that because I have this connect with the club, not purely because of the quality of the play. Now, when you look at the same situation in MMA, we are used to watching UFC. Potentially, if some of us are more into MMA, we might be watching one championship or Bellator or whatever that might be. And the quality difference is still very significant with regards to the Indian product and these global products, right? And when that happens, and some of the better Indian fighters are also going into one championship, so the quality deteriorates further because our best fighters are not in India, right? And the best pro and the no, so if you set up a promotion now, anyway the size of the market is small, and then the product differential is significant. Right now, it is not the promoter's responsibility to build the sport of MMA and build these communities and build these. It's the responsibility of potentially federation or the ministry or so on. And there's a lot of chaos in how we are
But
structured.
yeah, when you say that, that's a good point, because one of the problems that I see in MMA is there's too many federations,
Yeah,
right? There's about five, six federations. Anybody who wants to do something, they make their own federation, and there is no real ministry support. There is some support in terms of maybe in some states to individual players and
yeah,
to some federations, who get to do their nationals there and everything. There is some support there,
yeah.
but it's not a recognized sport as such. So it doesn't really get any money. People who are, MMA fighters or coaches, it's not like they get government jobs.
Yeah.
So it is really a passion sport if one looks at it at that from many avenues.
Absolutely. I mean, even if you look at the perspective of a fighter, right, they have to sacrifice so much. I mean, imagine getting, hit in the head every
Yeah.
day in sparring, and then they know that even despite having all these sacrifices, they know that there's not even a professional league or even a semi-professional kind of a, s- a setup. The best is like potentially, if you're really good, you can get into one championship, but that's only a handful of fighters. So it is a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of passion, as you rightfully said. But who actually has the onus of developing the sport? Now imagine if you have the Pro Panja League. Now if you start setting up an MMA promotion, right? The reason it's failing is because there isn't enough support at the grassroots, right? So I would say, okay, Praveen, why don't you just start building some micro communities, doing some community work, doing some grassroots work, try to build fans around that, which football, for example, has successfully been able to do in a Kerala or a Northeast or a Kolkata, for example, right? you would say, but that's not really my responsibility as a promoter,
Yeah.
right? How can I take crores of rupees and invest into that, and how can I justify that
That's the
as
federation's job.
it's the federation's job, right? And if federation is not strong enough, it's the ministry's job to support the federation. And there's a body called Sports Authority of India also there to support the development side of things. But it's a chicken and egg, right? The sport is not commercial, right? And the federation has no money. Sports ministry would say, if I have finiteness in of resources, then where should I put resources into a federation which is supporting an Olympic sport,
And can go to the Olympics.
or go to the Olympics, get us some medals, or a sport which is potentially more popular in nature, like a badminton or a basketball or whatever that might be. And of course, anyway, the resources are limited.
Yeah.
So it's a vicious circle, unfortunately. And but the way to actually commercialize it, I believe, is something similar to what you are doing. I don't think a top-down approach works in MMA in India. I don't think creating a fancy league with fancy investment and making it glitz and glamour and Bollywood and getting Tiger Shroff and all that, with all due respect to him, is going to really improve the sport. I think it's a bottom-up approach. We have to look at creating. We can't look at India as a whole. We have to look at creating micro communities and build the sport from there. So, like, I know there's a couple of good MMA gyms in Nagaland, and there's a culture around that. There's
All along the Northeast, in fact, there's quite a few
all
Northeast.
along the Northeast, there's some culture in Haryana from fighters who moved from the wrestling backgrounds into MMA. So we picked
Like your Ritu Phogat, who's doing very well in one now, but of course she's again gone out of the country and gone to one now.
absolutely. And so if you look at these communities or micro communities or regions, and look at picking 4 or 5, and then look at building certain digital assets like the MMA India show, and try to get all the people together, right? And if this community is, even if this community is 4, 5, 10 lakh strong community, which is a small number in India, it can become it can genuinely become something which a broadcaster might look at and say, listen, this is, even it's not football numbers, kabaddi numbers, cricket numbers, wrestling numbers, but it's these people who are passionate about it, right? So where we can't get the numbers, we have to compensate by the involvement and the engagement. So smaller numbers but much higher engagement. I think these certain investments need to be made in bringing this community together before something larger like a proper promotion can start. Otherwise, it again falls flat, similar to what unfortunately SFL went through.
Yeah. So basically, what from the gist of this conversation, I would say, is we do have to start developing it more on the root level. We need to stop for a second, reassess what we're doing, and develop it from the ground up. Try and get ministry help, get the federations to do more on the ground level, and really develop the sport from up, and look at these communities where it is strong, where it can have support, where it has ground support, in the Northeast, in Haryana, like you mentioned, some other places, and concentrate on these places to build that support, more communities, digital communities like ours, and and work upwards from there, rather than just try to do glitzy shows all the time.
Absolutely. The challenge, obviously, with that model is that it's easy to just pass the buck to somebody else and say, this is not my responsibility, right? So if you're a private
I think
promoter,
everybody has a
you'd be
certain
like,
responsibility, right?
yeah.
As part of the
So
ecosystem,
I think
everyone has a responsibility.
absolutely. And I think what we can talk about for a couple of minutes now is our responsibility as fans, so to speak, right? As against, trying to expect somebody to take a massive financial hit, and try to do that.
Yeah.
So I feel like if all of us are a little more vocal, little more involved, like I've been culprit of not following the Indian scene as much as, or even close to the American scene, or the Asian scene in general, right? So people like myself who really enjoy the sport and love the sport, to follow the Indian fighters more, look at even smaller fights, or just even if it's a 5 rupee pay-per-view sometime, or some support we can provide on a day-to-day basis. So I mean, I've been culprit of doing that, and I believe I know a lot of my friends who follow UFC and don't, follow the Indian scene at all. So I think if we all start doing that just a little bit more, and develop the community ourselves rather than expect the federation or somebody else to do it, and anything that they do is a bonus, right? So I think that can make a big difference.
I think what the fans need to also do is dip a little into their pocket, because right now Indian fans don't want to pay for anything,
Yeah.
unless it's
True.
IPL on Hotstar. They don't want to वो 50 रुपए भी निकालने में उनको they're everybody's searching for illegal streams and
Yeah.
free content. I think once you start paying for something, because everybody's complaining that there's not good content in our fighters, but you're not willing to even put that 50 rupees down to pay for content. We've been streaming a lot of boxing matches and kickboxing and MMA as well. So the free stuff does very well.
Yeah.
लेकिन अगर किसी से गलती से पैसे मांग लो, that's the end of the line right
We've
there.
we've been so pampered. I mean, if you look at everything that we watch, right? India has more games of Premier League than, I mean, live than in the UK, believe it or not. I mean, we are so pampered. We are paying some 10-15 rupees for Star Sports. We get all games,
Yeah.
right? For Premier League. I mean, we are pampered in all kinds of content. And you're absolutely right. जब पैसे निकालने की बात आती है तो, we rather. So, I mean, I would probably watch tomorrow's card, but if there's a fight night which is only one decent fight, I'd probably not pay for it. If I have to pay something extra for it.
Yeah. Here,
So
I
yeah,
just want to
right.
get in some. Sorry, I want to get in some comments as well.
Yeah.
Of course, as we get to the UFC 261, some predictions as well. Vivek Jack is saying, I want to fight for India. No known fighters in UFC, even though Indians are the oldest people to practice martial arts for centuries, need someone to guide the fighters. India has talented fighters. Sponsors secure the future of the fighter. What about South India, Bangalore? Please guide me to get into the fight game. Where can I work out and fight for country as well as a martial artist? Now, this is another issue, and thanks Vivek Jack for writing that in. Is that a lot of people write into us even for trying to find, MMA gyms. Where do they get? Some people have the passion, but they don't know where to train. There's very few gyms. I know Bangalore has some, Bombay has a couple of very good ones. Delhi has some very good teams. The Northeast has some very good teams. But this is what we're talking about. If you want to become an MMA fighter, then you need to be in one of these pockets, right?
Yeah.
So Vivek Jack, sorry, yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
No, so I mean, I feel for Vivek because it's not just about the viewership and fans, but a lot of the fighters also there's so little transparency into what it takes to become a fighter. Like, where do we train? How do we get trials into? How do we get scouted? What are the opportunities? And the sport gets lost just because of that. But Vivek, I mean, I don't call myself an expert with regards to development, but feel free to reach out to me either on Facebook or Instagram or somewhere. I'm happy to have a private chat and see if there's anything we can do to at least connect you to some people who can guide you better than we can.
So we do, and Vivek, if you write to us, we'll also give you a list of gyms that you can go to depending on the area you're in, because we're connected to all of the good gyms. So we do try to help fighters in terms of at least where they can go for training. Now, coming to the UFC 261 predictions, I just want to read out a couple of. Now, before I go there, again, I want to say Fanatics MMA app. You can download it. The link is in the caption of the show. And for predictions, Sky 24/7, the link is in the caption. And this episode is sponsored by Pro Punjabi. Go and join and subscribe and follow. Now, Yash Ganjur's prediction is Masvidal via KO TKO, Rose by KO TKO, Shevchenko by decision. Rupender Sharma is a big follower of MMA India show and doing a lot of good work in the Northeast for MMA fighters. Usman via UD, Zhang versus TKO, third round. Bullet via KO, second round. Weidman via submission, third round. Jimmy Crute, UD. Okay, so Yeah. So let's now go to uh, the predictions, which we think also, and both of us can discuss. So I want to talk about, first of all, of course, just to give you the odds, everybody the odds, the light heavyweight fight, Anthony Smith is the underdog. Wow. At
Yeah, man.
2.62 versus Jim Crute, who is 1.50. What do you have to say about those odds?
I support that. See, the crude style is very much like Rakic or Rakic, I believe, the guy who beat Anthony Smith previously, and also Glover. Like,
Yeah.
he can just come on to you, play, put you on the back, and Smith is not really good on the back. So I'm going with Crude on this one.
Okay. So,
What do you think?
I actually like Anthony Smith. If I was to make an emotional decision, he was a number one contender. He seems to have a lot of heart, and
Yeah,
he won his last fight after, I think, losing 3 in a row. And I think he is going to come with a lot of passion in this. Skill wise, yes, Jim Crute,
yeah,
but I think heart does have a lot to play in
yeah.
this as well. And
He would
I
be
think
super motivated. Yeah, he wants
he's
to
going
come
to come
back to the top.
motivated. And as we've seen in MMA, very hard to predict fights sometimes. Very hard.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
let's see what happens with this fight. And now the next one is a middleweight fight. Chris Weidman, who is the favorite at 1.72 versus Uriah Hall 2.10. Now here, I just want to say that we interviewed Chris Weidman some time
Oh,
back.
really? Oh, amazing.
Yeah, we did some time back.
I'm-
Great guy at his family
yeah.
home. It was lovely talking to him, and he's a great guy, ex-champ. Who won, of course, in the against Anderson De Silva, very famous fight, and defeated him again in another very famous fight. Unfortunately, lost to Luke Rockhold, and since the belt has been it changed hands a couple of times. So, what do you say about this fight? Personally, my feeling is Uriah Hall seems to be now coming into his own. We saw him win. Sorry, he didn't win the Ultimate Fighter, but I think he came second. He lost the final to Kelvin Gastelum, but he had the semifinal win, the great back kick, which was great. He seems to be coming into his own. He's a very, very talented fighter. He seems to have lost some fights which he should have won. The reason being, he seemed almost disinterested sometimes in the fight. He wasn't giving it. I think in each fight, in between, he seems to have lost that hunger. He seemed to be okay with losing as well. It didn't seem to make a big But now he seems to be more focused. Coming back, his last fight, of course, he beat Anderson Silva. What do you think of this matchup, and what is your prediction?
So, I mean, of course, Weidman is on his way down in a way. Hall is on his way up. I see why the odds are with Weidman, but I have Uriah Hall winning this one, and I think he's going to be a little bit faster than Weidman. He'll probably clip him. I'm seeing him second round or third round TKOs.
Okay, so we are also the MMA India show for the first fight. Also, we're not predicting a winner because it's very hard, but we are predicting that the fight will go over 1.5 rounds for those interested in predictions. And this fight also, the MMA India show, J Rock has not predicted a winner. Again, we're saying the fight goes over 1.5 rounds for those interested in predicting. But my personal choice is going to be Uriah Hall as well. Just like I said, for the fact that he comes into this fight, I think a little more focused than he's been so far. Great all-round skills. Very quick hands, quick feet, very good counter puncher as well. I think what I think is going to happen is Chris. Let's hope. He sometimes he does try to overextend, but Chris is, I think, going to look to take this fight to the ground because Uriah Hall's ground game is not that great. Chris Weidman's we've seen, he's pretty good on the ground. So he is going to look to take it to the ground. If he does that, I think Uriah Hall is going to be in a bad position. Uriah Hall is going to try to avoid those takedowns. It's going to try to counter. Both fighters know what they're going to try to do, right? It's a matter of stopping the other person. It's like predator and prey. Every prey has very good defenses. Every predator has very good offense, but it's on the day whose works better. So let's see whose works better this day. But I personally, I'm going to go with Uriah Hall as well. Now to the title fights. Valentina Shevchenko, who's the big favorite, 1.25 against Jessica Andrade, 4.0. Now, we predict Valentina Shevchenko, of course, which I think a lot of people are going to do, defeats Jessica Andrade. Valentina seems, and we've spoken to Valentina as well twice in the past. Great person, great fighter. Valentina seems like such a tough fighter to overcome. And it's great that she's got her weight division now, because the only fighter, she's lost twice to Amanda Nunes, and she's lost to one more fighter, I forgot who. I think, anyway, I won't try to remember right now, but so she's only lost 3 fights so far, out of which 2 have been to Amanda Nunes. The Amanda Nunes weight division seemed a little too much, so I think this weight division seems right for her, which is flyweight, and she's made it her own. She won the division, and doesn't seem to be giving her crown. Very well all-rounded fighter. She did. And people who think she's not that good on her back, just remember the armbar she gave to the Venezuelan vixen, Pena, off her back, which nobody even knew is what's happening. And before you knew it, she had tapped out.
I mean, I just don't see how Jessica Andrade can really.
And we're talking about, with all due respect, we're talking about Jessica Andrade, who was a champion herself, who beat Rose and lost to Rose again, but she was a champion. She's been one of the #1 fighters for a long time. And it's with such almost, I don't want to say disdain, that we say, it seems very hard that she has a chance against Valentina.
Yeah, the thing is that for Jessica Andrade, I feel like she was like this big bully in strawweight, right? And that gets kind of negated in this weight category. And Valentina has so many skills. Like, she can fight, she can clinch, she can be on her feet, she can be on her back. I don't really see where Jessica can win this fight. And the thing is that Valentina also has a chin. So even if you can say that, Jessica might clip her or something extraordinary, I believe Valentina can take Jessica's best shot. And I just don't see where Jessica can really win this fight.
I just want to say, Valentina is one of the best looking, fighters. And I don't mean that in a sexist, way, but what's amazing about her, she's so good looking, but you wouldn't want to meet her alone in an alley. She would beat, I think, maybe competition against MMA fight, but she could kick any guy's ass. She would beat the living fuck out of anybody. Yeah. She is such a tough, the fight of hers, which I noticed her in the first time, was the fight against Holly Holm. And this was Holly Holm, but I still remember Valentina, such an amazing counter puncher and so patient. She was just waiting, and Holly Holm, is the one who, counters so much, but she was just waiting for Holly Holm to come in. And that's when I learned why they call her the bullet, man. She was so fast with her counters and her kicks. And, something like Holly didn't have an answer for her. So, it's amazing the skill that Valentina possesses. And it's always nice to see her dancing after she wins also.
Absolutely. So you'd rather be doing salsa with her and be on a good side than try to mess with her. But yeah, man, I mean, at some point, us fans would love for, her to fight Amanda again, maybe in a catch weight. Like, I feel that's really going to be a massive fight, and see, if they're both comfortable in a weight category. But that's the problem, right? I mean, where do we take the fight, in which category? But for tomorrow,
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Good. I just want to say Valentina Shevchenko is not many people know, she's from Kyrgyzstan, and she is a national icon in Kyrgyzstan. Not many people have even heard of Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing country, very famous for its horses. Bishkek is the capital, so it's people get to know about a country. Just imagine, because of a person like Valentina Shevchenko. Just shows that sports stars can be such huge ambassadors for their country as well.
I mean, if you think about Dagestan, right, and the history of Dagestan and what they've
who had heard about Dagestan before Khabib?
Absolutely.
Who had heard about Dagestan before Khabib? If anybody had said Dagestan, You'd be
Yeah.
like, "Imagine, Kai, Dagestan
Yeah.
is so imagine."
And we talk about like, I mean, he's not technically Russian, right? So nobody really knew Dagestan or what the people would say, Russian fighter.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, how these big personalities can impact, create a impact about their region globally. It's phenomenal.
So now coming to the next fight, what's interesting about this card is the top three title weight fights. Two of them are women's.
Yeah.
So the next fight, the strawweight for the strawweight belt, Wiley the champ, Wiley Zhang is the favorite at 1.50 versus Rose Namajunas at 2.62. Now this we are our in-house predictor J Rock is predicting that Wiley Zhang is going to defeat Rose Namajunas. Uh, which seems, but let me just say this. This is going to be a fight. This can very easily turn out to be the fight of the year because Rose Namajunas has some amazing all-around skills, amazing boxing skills, very quick hands, kicking skills, ground game, very good stuffing skills.
Very
And
patient.
she is coming back really hungry. In between, there was a little phase where she seemed a little, but she came back so strong against Jessica Andrade, and she's really muddied the waters here by calling Wiley Zhang, this fight a fight against communism.
Yeah, I want to address that first. I mean, at least I was a big Rose fan, and I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt because I don't know what she went through growing up, because I'm sure there are some communism stories there. But man, this was below the belt. Like I felt it
But you
shouldn't
think
have
so?
been.
Doesn't Connor do the same thing? He called the Diaz brothers, Mexican gangsters.
But that's all below the belt, I believe. Like no, so I understand where Connor comes from. He's trying to build the fight. I don't think Rose is trying to build the fight.
Oh, you think so? She seems
I
like
think she
she actually needs
really has gone through a lot personally, and
yeah.
she really believes that communism is bad. Which I mean, we can all argue whether it's good or bad or ugly, but I think it's also very ballsy for her to come out and say it and say that this is a fight against communism and what we've gone through. I think
But
yes,
don't you
Lovish,
think the
but
fighters look for things to motivate themselves? And if that is what motivates Rose,
yeah,
maybe she shouldn't have said it publicly.
yeah,
But that's the issue, is that she said it publicly. But
yeah.
maybe that's what motivates her. Then that's what motivates her.
Yeah, and we've seen in Rose that a motivated Rose versus a demotivated Rose can be hugely different, right? I mean, she has all the skills, she checks all the boxes, but if she's not into it, I mean, I followed her career a little bit, and she's an emotional person. Either she gets in on something or she's just not into it, and maybe this is the kind of motivation she needed. Of course, last fight she was bang on. She lost a little bit of focus before that, but this is probably the motivation she needed to build herself up and be ready for this.
Yeah.
But this is the fight I'm super excited about.
I
Like,
actually feel this is going to be the fight of the night. The reason being, if you see, both of them have very quick hands.
yeah,
Rose especially, I think, moves around the octagon really well. She's very good at getting in, hitting, and moving. Before you know it, she changes direction, she moves out.
yeah,
So it's very hard for the other person, to counter. But having said that, Wiley has amazingly quick hands. She may not wait. You know,
yeah,
Rose is going to have a big fight. Both of them have a huge fight on their hands,
yeah,
and it's so hard to see, which way this fight is going to go. I do see it staying on its feet most of the time.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, what I love about Rose is her movement, her distance management, like coming in and out, creating space for herself, and the counter, right? And I
yeah,
think that's what she did phenomenally with against Joanna in
yeah,
both the fights.
both
And I
fights.
think a lot of people used to question Rose's ability to, her power really, and she showed that with the right precision, like the power kind of works for her. So that's her. That's where her strength is. But I think really the thing with her is she's so fast that she can still catch Rose with her hands. Do you remember the Whaley versus Andrade fight, which was 40 odd seconds or 46 whatever seconds?
Yeah,
I think that's where Rose has to be a little careful in the beginning. Is that if Whaley comes out brawling, right? And I think I mean, I've that fight I remember so clearly that she came out all guns blazing and she went all over. So that's the bit which I feel really has a little bit of advantage, that she can brawl better. And and if Rose gets caught in that, then it becomes really difficult to for her to kind of sustain that. So yeah, it's but this is the fight. I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm more excited about this fight than even the Usman Masvidal fight.
So now coming to the Usman Masvidal fight, which also you're really exciting. It's amazing main card, amazing, really amazing main card. One of the best main cards, you know, ever,
Absolutely.
ever, in a long time. And first time there's going to be an audience to see it, which is going to be even more exciting. Question mark over whether that should be happening at this time, but I guess America is in a much
Yeah,
better place than
it's
us,
gonna
at
be
least.
there,
We don't
yeah.
know what's happening on the ground there, so whatever. But there is going to be people. This happening in Florida, so there's going to be stadium full of people, and Kamaru Usman is the favorite at 1.25, the betting odd favorite. Jorge Masvidal, the massive underdog at 4.0. So if you are
Wow.
looking at predicting, and if you have some balls for risk, Jorge Masvidal is the one. And I'm really surprised, but you know what? Kamaru Usman has been so dominant in all his fights, and we have spoken to both of them. We were fortunate enough to speak to both of them at the very beginning when they were just starting to take off. At the very beginning of I think it was 2017 of the MMA India show as well. It was either end of 2016 or beginning of 2017, or the exact time where some of the first big they were not big at that time, but the first UFC guys who came on our show. So very very honored and grateful that these guys came on our show, and that we've had these both of them on our show. Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal came on twice. Great guys, both of them. Very humble guys, and both shared their love for India. So an amazing fight. They fought together last year, of course, at Fight Island, Yas Fight Island in Abu Dhabi, where Jorge Masvidal took the fight on, of course, at 6 days' notice. So, but the fight went the distance, so he has been saying, listen, this guy wasn't able to stop me. I came in on the fight, made weight in 6 days' notice. He should have been able to stop me, and the fact is that Kamaru Usman looked much more like he had been through a fight than Jorge Masvidal. That's what Jorge says. Now coming into this fight, Jorge Masvidal seems very, very confident, but Kamaru Usman has been so dominant against everybody. He has shut everybody down so strongly. But having said that, Jorge Masvidal, if you see the fight against Darren Till, Ben Askren, of course, let's forget for now, but even against Darren Till, who seemed so much bigger than him.
Yeah.
In welterweight, he seems so much bigger than him. But he has this, I think, way where he just lulls you, and before you know it, he's in your face and he's knocked you out. He's got you. His hands are so quick. He's got so many punches on you. You don't know what to do, and you're saving yourself. There's no time for a counter, and he swarms you. With that quickness. Whether he'll be able to do that against Kamaru, who I think is so good at dominating, at putting his will on the other guy. He doesn't let you have the space to try and do anything because he's always on top of you.
Yeah.
So
I think the beginning of the sorry.
How do you see this?
Go ahead. Yeah, so I think I would love for Masvidal to win this. There are only very few places where he can really win this, and that's the beauty of Usman's game, really. I mean, he's so well-rounded. He's great on the ground. He's really improved his striking in the last couple of years. I mean, his fight against Gilberto Burns was phenomenal, in my opinion. Like, he showed that he could take punches. He showed that he's created that slickness in his movement. He was fast. He was punching much better. It's going to be difficult for Masvidal to be able to even catch him, I believe. But the question that we all have is that we know that Masvidal has this surging power, right? He would just do bursts of energy and combinations, and then kind of ease out a little bit, then go into those bursts again. And I feel that Usman can take his best shot, and that's where I start doubting if Masvidal can really win this. But I think the beginning of the fight will be very critical as to who actually dictates the fight. If Usman gets into his own zone, I don't think Masvidal has any chance, in my opinion. If Masvidal can really get something going in the first 2-3 minutes where he can really rattle Kamaru, then it becomes okay. Then he starts doubting himself, questioning his game plan. then it becomes a game.
Isn't that what I think that's what he's going to try to do, right? Because we know Masvidal always comes up with special things. If you see the thing against Ben Askren, what he came up with, right?
Yeah.
He practiced that a lot, but nobody knew that because they only shared that BTS footage after the fight, of course. They were not going to give away his game plan. But it was such an amazing, because he knew Ben Askren, he had seen, he tries to come down. You know, there is no doubt in my mind that he has really studied Usman's game. Having said that, Usman, like we said, has a chin. You know, you can try to punch him out, you can try to do anything. Usman also knows that Masvidal is going to try to come up with something, you know.
Yeah.
But it's not that easy, you know. Usman is no Ben Askren, you know, without a doubt. Absolutely. So he is going to try to come up with something. Whether he can execute it or not remains to be seen.
But also, I would like to point out here, I mean, if you think of Masvidal's journey, like how he would, you know, he had a transformation, so to speak. Like, I think he was in some reality show and started really thinking about his life and career. I feel like his confidence, even if it's unreal or ingenuine confidence, whatever it might be, whether it's true or not, but his confidence in his abilities is phenomenal, and I think that will take him far and deep into the fight. I would love for Masvidal to win, but I'm calling. If I have to put my money, I'll call this fight for Usman. And
well, you won't get much money back if you put it on Usman, but you'll get a lot more back if you put it on Masvidal.
That is true. I'd rather gamble my money on Whaley winning than Usman
on higher returns.
But I have Usman winning this fight. As much as I love Masvidal, I love what he stands for, and he also has a home court advantage, right? The fans are with him. Florida.
Yeah, of course. And if you saw the pre-fight press conference, the whole audience was rooting for Masvidal because it's Florida. That's his home audience, you know, and people were actually booing Usman.
Yeah, absolutely. Usman has been very underrated. I mean, we have to admit that, you know, he's been very underrated as a fighter and definitely also as a champion. But I think a lot of people started gaining respect for him in the last fight, where, you know, he was able to show his overall skills, and yeah, I mean, I think I'm really excited to see what, you know, if he wins this, what is next for him, really. I mean, maybe Covington was a great fight, and maybe Covington rematch would be, if he wins this, maybe a Covington rematch would be what's next for him. But he's really wiped out the division if he wins this.
Yeah. So that was the UFC 261 predictions. We're not going yet. There's one more thing I'm going to talk to you about, which is a very interesting thing. Before that, let me say that you can get all of the predictions again in our article on MMAindia.com, the UFC 261 predictions and the odds. Look us up over there, MMAindia.com. You can download the Fanatics MMA app. The link is in the caption. You can predict Sky 24/7. The link is in the caption. This episode is sponsored by the Pro Punja League. I want to thank, you know, all of you guys who keep tuning in to the MMA India show and following us. I just want to say that we were doing some insights into the MMA India show and our engagement this week, and we've been consistently having very high engagement. I mean, it's the highest in Asia. We had 4.3 million engagement this week. It's second only to one championship. It's higher than Bellator as well. So thank you, fans, you guys and followers. You guys have been, you know, showing us so much love and talking to us and doing so much things on our Facebook and all the social media. So thank you so much. I just want to give my personal predictions. Like I said, J-Rock, our in-house predictor, has given them on MMAindia.com. Now, if I were to predict emotionally, so don't predict according to me. This is just my emotional predictions. You know, I'm going to go with Anthony Smith. I'm going to go with Uriah Hall. I'm going to go with Rose Namajunas, Valentina Shevchenko, and only because I like him and I think there's an outside chance he might win and the odds are really good, I'm going to go with Jorge Masvidal, just for the fuck of it. You know, just for the fuck of it. Let's see. I think, you know, people. I'm not sure the odds are really showing how this, because if you see the first one also, it went the distance.
It did.
Usman shuts people down. Jorge Masvidal lasted that whole fight and did pretty well. all through those 5 rounds. So I think he's going to bring something else to the table right now. Let's see what he has. So that's my emotional predictions. And now coming to a little a different discussion, what do you think about these Jake Paul type celebrity influencer fights, which are bringing a lot of money, of course, not to everybody, but to these guys and to the game? He fought and beat Ben Askren. I had predicted Jake Paul's going to win. And, now he's apparently going to be fighting Floyd Mayweather. We all know how that fight is going to go. But, like we were saying, I was discussing with some of, people like to pay just to see him beaten up. You will pay, just to see him beaten up, just like, even in the other fight, Ben Askren, everybody knew was probably going to lose. A lot of people thought he was going to win. Ben Askren, I knew he was going to lose. Jake Paul has some pretty decent boxing skills. Maybe Ben Askren is not the way to prove it. I do feel he should have had another fight before he faced Floyd Mayweather. But Floyd Mayweather is a really smart guy. He knew if Jake Paul came up against another actual boxer and lost, then there'd be no money in the fight with him. So Floyd Mayweather probably thought, इसको अभी पकड़ लेते हैं, मैच तो वही पैसे बना लेते हैं, क्योंकि बीच में हार गया तो मैच कोई पैसा नहीं होगा, इसको अभी पकड़ लो, अभी पैसा खींच लो. So I think Floyd is really smart. They don't call him Floyd Money Mayweather for nothing, so he knows how to make his money. And what do you think of these fights? And do you think that such celebrity combat fights can maybe bring some attention in India itself?
I think they can for sure. I mean, I personally am not a huge fan. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you're walking on the road and two people are fighting, most people are going to just stop and, watch them fight. That's just the nature of how human evolution has been, whether it's from the gladiator days to this.
Everybody will just stop and say, Maro match, match.
Abhi, if you say that, okay, Salman Khan is going to fight somebody else, it's going to generate far, far, far more interest in our country than any of the pro boxers.
Or even for that matter, a YouTube influencer.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there are so many people out there. If you see the biggest influencers also.
Yeah.
If he could actually beat, like, let's say, a sports star, which is what happened here also, right? Of course, Jake Paul started with another influencers. If two influencers were going to fight, it would generate some kind of, interest. Absolutely. Would it fill a stadium? I don't know here, but it would generate some interest, at least online. And if the next thing he actually beat a sports star.
Yeah.
So that's the path Jake Paul has gone on.
Unfortunately, it'll generate more interest than two legit boxers fighting in India. I would imagine.
But don't you think, if, like you said, it wouldn't generate interest, and if you put actual fighters on that fight card, then you bring more interest to the sport and more eyeballs to the sport?
Yeah, I think it's again goes back to our MMA discussion. Like, whose responsibility is it to improve the sport? So if people say that you do this,
no, we're not talking about just improving the sport, but let's say we are talking about bringing eyeballs. What is the best way maybe to bring eyeballs? It's not a great way maybe for the actual sport.
Yeah.
But like I said, if you have somebody on the card like these guys who would bring eyeballs to the sport, and if you have actual fighters on the fight card, who then get exposure as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think this fights like these are purely for the casual fans, and if I'm a casual fan, I wouldn't even watch the the fights leading up to the main fight. So maybe it will help. I definitely feel it will work in India. I mean, there's a lot of people who we all want to see beaten up. So
you know what I think? They should have a celebrity fight between a couple of news guys. Because I know the news guys, people either love or hate a couple of them.
Yeah.
उनको बीच में fight करवा देते हैं.
हाँ. उनको तो pro boxer के साथ लड़ाओ.
प्रो बॉक्सर नहीं, आपस में लड़ा दो, वही बहुत बड़ी बात है. प्रो बॉक्सर की लड़ाओगे कुछ मजा नहीं है, पर आपस में लड़ाओ वो मजा है.
That's true. So I think it can work in India. I don't know if that's the way for boxing to evolve as a sport, but globally I see I mean, why not? I mean, there's people making ridiculous money off of, like, look at Ben Askren. He's probably made more money, and we discussed this offline. Like, he probably made more money in this fight than his entire career. Probably,
yeah,
right? And if you look at some of his post-fight interviews, he was like, "Listen, I was getting ridiculous amount of money, and I just had a hip surgery, and it was a good way to get back in shape. Those were my only two motivations. And what was negative was there was a chance that I could get embarrassed again, which he did.
But I'll tell you something. When you think about the money that he made, there's no embarrassment. He's like,
exactly.
yeah, it's like, fuck you, I made a lot of money. What's embarrassing about it?
Exactly. So I mean, see, we somehow place these athletes in some other realm, right? I mean, you and I, if we get so if I'm working in Delhi and if I get a great job offer in Bangalore and I have to leave my family and maybe go for 6 months, do this project, I'll make that sacrifice for a good amount of income, right? There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
We have people all over our country doing this.
Yeah.
But when a guy goes and fights and he knows he's probably going to lose and he just has to save a little bit of embarrassment, we say कि यार क्यों कर रहा है ये अपने, this is joke, this is fun or whatever. But man, he was embarrassed. Man, he got embarrassed. Like he got lit up. Like
But
I don't know if you've seen the various
made
angles.
his retirement fund. He doesn't give a fuck. He's made his retirement fund. He's taken care of his family forever.
You could see in his family's eyes, like after the fight, that they were all content with with it. They were like, fine, it does not matter.
He's come out unhurt.
There'll be some memes.
मुझे तो लगता है एंड में उसने थोड़ी एक्टिंग भी की होगी. वो इतनी जोर से लगा नहीं था. उसने दिखाया हुआ रेफरी को, are you okay? And the referee said, okay, stop. And he must have been like,
क्या पूछ रहे हो जी, क्या पूछ
oh जी आपका नाम क्या है? So you know what, a little acting goes a long way, I would say.
Yeah.
So good for him. He made a lot of money. My respect to him for taking the fight and getting inside the ring and making money for his family. That has my full respect. And so let's see. You never know. Such fights get blue collar. Shall we call them blue collar fights? Start getting set up in India also.
I think we should follow the lead you've given with getting some journalists on the ring.
I
think we should start looking at least
maybe we can do that for the Pro Panja League.
I think Panja would be much better. Like I think it'll be much better received. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I would love to have two celebrities or influencers or.
Okay. Who would you want on the Panja table? Let's say.
Oh man, so unfortunately, I have to be politically correct here.
Don't be politically correct. MMA India show is not for those people who want to be politically correct. यहाँ पे खुल के बोलो.
No, so definitely. I mean, if you look at I'm no fan of Arnav Goswami, so I would love for him to.
What a surprising name! I never thought you would take that. Very surprising. Very.
I want to really say some other names here, but I think it might be better.
So who should he face?
Who should he face?
That's the key, right?
I don't know. I don't think of any other journalists who can. But
I can think of a name. What about that guy? I think is his name Ravinder Kumar or Sobe, one of these guys, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not big into that, so I wouldn't know. But I would love to. I mean, I would love to really have a legit opponent. Like rather than somebody just beat the hell out of him, I would love to see him sweat for a victory and then lose.
Yeah. Okay. So,
but I genuinely feel that Celebrity Panja is a big opportunity.
Set that up. If people have the balls to come onto the table, we will start setting that up.
Yeah.
Starting with, of course, we already did that in our media launch with this mini media tournament, and all of them enjoyed it. I have to say they had a great time. They were all amazing sports, so no shame to them all. They were all giving it their all, so it's great fun. So they all loved it. So this is something we can look at going forward. So having said that, before we shut down for today, anything else you want to say, Vivek?
No, thank you for having me here. I mean, talking about MMA is just like absolute blessing. I mean, I would anyway be doing this with my friends right now. So thanks for having me. I'm super excited about the card tomorrow. It's actually one of the very rare cards where I'm going to see all the main card fights. I'm actually equally excited about Anthony Smith and Jimmy Crute. Like, it's going to be a brilliant card tomorrow. So, and one last shout out again. I know you've mentioned it before, but I really appreciate Sony doing this because, imagine the money we would have had to pay the entire year. But I also, keep saying them, take some money at least. If there's a way for us to contribute, let's do that. And anybody listening, if there's anything which we can do together to build the MMA community, and I know Praveen, thank you, you're doing such an amazing job to do that, from the grounds up. So anything we can do, absolutely happy to brainstorm and action certain things.
Absolutely. I think a couple of good minds coming together can do something for the sport. And that is the reason we brought you on the show today as well, to talk about the business side of it and put some light onto it. So thank you so much for your time, Vivek Sethia, again from India on Track, CEO, 360 Degree Sports Agency. Thank you so much for your time. This is Parvin Dabas signing off from the MMA India show. Again, MMA India show, the Fanatics MMA app. You can download it in the caption section. Sky 24/7 for predictions, and sponsored by the Pro Punja League. Give us a follow and a shout out. So thank you, all of you, and all of you followers and fans who have seen the episode today and continually follow, engage with us. Thank you so much. We appreciate you all. This is Parveen Devas signing off. A great morning of fights for us. UFC 261, a really entertaining bout of fights. So let's see how it goes. Take care, guy, and thank you, Sony, again for screening it for us, free of cost, of course, and almost free of cost. But thank you so much, guys, and we will see the fights tomorrow morning. Thank you, Vivek. Take care.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.